Hey, what's up everybody? Thomas Eunice here. I am founder of Ecosystems, and in this video, I'm going to give an overview of 5 things I do to keep Claude Code in check while putting apps together or building new, features or functions and things like that. Over the past couple months, it seems like people have been running into a lot of issues using Claude Code with model degradation, and I think a lot of it has to do with not putting up enough guardrails. While I did notice some issues myself, if I did these things I'm about to show you, I was able to ship a lot of products still and still have a lot of success using Claude. I feel like a lot of the people who are having these issues are trying to do too much at once. And if you keep a very focused workflow while using Claude Code, you should be able to ship things pretty seamlessly. So let's jump into the 5 things and we'll go over that really quick. The first thing I do is when I open up the command line, I tell Claude to become an expert on this code base. Never will I just open it and start, asking for things to be done. I want to build the context for it to reference while trying to add a new feature or function to something or refactor some code. So the first thing I do is I say, become an expert on this code base. So it seems to work pretty well. And once I do that, the next thing I do is I tell it just to look at what I want to do. I say, don't code, but I want to insert goal. Do you see what I'm talking about? And what it will do is it'll go through, it'll read through the code, and it'll come back and say, yes, I can see this, that, and the other thing, and this is what you want to do. So what I attempt to do is build context, like before I do anything. Because once I do that, I ask it how it's going to implement what I want to do. Once it understands my goal, I say, perfect, don't code, but explain to me how you will implement this. And then what ends up happening is it'll go through and it'll either list out what it's going to do, it'll list out the code it's going to put in there, or it'll give me a few options of ways to implement it and say, like, my recommendation is B. And I'll look over the code, the way it wants to implement it, and approve that. Because sometimes when it tells me what it wants to implement, you'll see it has this whole list of things. And you're like, whoa, that's like way too much. We just need a simple feature put in here. So let's rework your plan, and it will go back and give me a simpler plan. Anyone that's used Opus has probably noticed it can like over-engineer stuff or fill you with bloat and just a bunch of nonsense. So when you ask how it's going to implement it and it gives you a rundown, it really helps you get an idea of what is exactly going to happen when you try to implement this feature. And then once we do that, I approve the plan. Never once do I tell it to do anything. What I try to do is just build context layers and let it think on its own through the problem. And then I say, okay, let's implement your plan. And then it goes through and does the coding. So I try to be more of a context engineer instead of a prompt engineer when doing this. I try to never tell it to do things. I try to guide its thinking into accomplishing these tasks. So I think that is a thing people want to do, because when you do it like this, you give such a narrow window for it to like shoot in that it becomes more reliable by the time you say implement this plan, because it looks at what you want to do, tells you how it's going to do it, and then you just do the one thing you agree on. So the last thing I do is I clear the context window after I implement one feature. Never do I go and do 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 things all at once in one chat. I do one feature, one function, one fix. I clear the context window. It seems like with all the LLMs, if you chain thoughts together too long, it just gets dumber and dumber as you go. So this might seem redundant, but you implement one feature, clear the context, ask it to become an expert on your code base again. And this alone seems to, even just this one feature, right, like doing this, just clearing it after each time seems to really help too, because it keeps the memory fresh. So that's the last thing I do is once we implement the plan, I clear the context. And then finally, use your voice. I've noticed that when I voice prompt using my hotkeys on Windows or my Mac, I can give deeper context, explain things quicker, be more expressive, and I can add more nuance to my prompts. That way it seems to have a deeper understanding of what I want to accomplish, and it seems to go, very well. We've shipped over 5 products this last couple months, and we use Claude Code for all of it, and it seems to work really well, even with the issues it has had. So give these things a shot. Let me know what you think. If you have any things you do that seem to work, let me know what you're doing, because who knows, maybe none of this works. Maybe this is all nonsense and I'm just wasting my time. But doing all these things has led to success with us shipping products using Claude Code, and maybe this can help you. So leave a comment, let me know what you think, and talk to y'all later.